What about now? Let me know if my sound is still crunchy. I think I changed my microphone. I'm doing it on a different setup today. I might have to switch over to the iPad. Is it better? Oh, good. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Regina Renee. I'm glad you caught that before we started too much. Let's start over actually so you can hear everything. Sorry, different setup. Room wasn't available. It was a weird day, but I'm glad it's working better. If it starts crunching up again, let me know. So welcome to National Novel Writing Month, the second week. Welcome back to everyone. I was mentioning that I hope the background isn't too distracting today. I'm just in the staff room today instead of the meeting room. So before we dive into what we're going to be doing for this week, I wanted to mention that our schedule is going to change a bit for a very exciting reason. So we are going to have Allison Gervais, which is a local Pueblo author, and we are going to have her joining us on November 30th. And let me turn this down too. I'm so sorry. Today is a weird day. Okay. My phone was ringing as well. So we're going to be changing our schedule a bit because Allison Gervais is going to join us on November 30th. So we were going to have our virtual write-in on November 30th, but we're actually going to shift our schedule around a bit, and we're going to have our virtual write-in on November 23rd. So Allison Gervais will be joining us on the 30th, and if you don't know who she is, she's a local Pueblo author. She's known for writing the books In 27 Days and then also The Silence Between Us. And she went to CSU Pueblo and has a degree in English. So it'll be really exciting to not only hear from an author, but a local Pueblo author. And we'll be chatting about her writing journey, how she got started, and then also hopefully some information that will be helpful for you with National Novel Writing Month. We'll chat about how to get inspiration, how to fit, writing into busy lives and everything like that. So that will be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. So just make sure that you know the virtual write-ins on the 23rd, and then Allison Gervais will be our guest author speaker on the 30th. So let's go ahead and dive into what we will be talking about today. So before we start talking about staying motivated, how is everyone doing with the first week of NaNoWriMo? How has it been going for everyone? Personally, for me, I'll be honest, I've been having a harder time of it than I have the last couple of years. I'm not sure if it's like the weather and all of the things that have been going on this year, or what it is, but I've been finding it harder to carve out time to write, and then also to focus on just writing during that time. It's been really easy for me to stay distracted, checking the news, looking at social media, just even, playing games, things like that. So I've been struggling a bit, actually, more than I have in the past couple years. So my word count's not where I want it to be, but hopefully this week will make it easier for us to stay motivated when we talk about how to do that. So what about anyone else who's listening? How has this first week of NaNoWriMo gone for you? If you're too nervous to comment, that's okay too. You can just reflect on it on your own. Okay, so hopefully you've had some time to reflect on how NaNoWriMo has gone for you so far. And again, just like last week, I forgot to mention, this is totally interactive, so feel free to put anything in the chat anytime, and we'll look at your comments together and chat about it whenever you feel comfortable. So I'm really glad that this week we're going to be talking about staying motivated, tracker possibilities, that kind of thing, as well as word sprints, because this is coming at a very opportune time, at least for me, since I've been struggling more with writing. So let's chat a little bit about staying motivated, and this might be an example of do as I say and not as I do, because I know these things and I know a lot of strategies that have been helping me, but I've been finding that I'm having a hard time actually employing those strategies when I need to. So the first thing is staying motivated and scheduling time to write every day. I think that might be, that one and the second one might be what I'm struggling with. So it can be really difficult if you have different jobs or just a different schedule, childcare, that kind of thing. It can be really hard to fit writing into your busy schedule. And so it's really important that even if the time changes, if you can schedule a time every day to write and know that that is the one thing on your schedule from noon to 1, that is my one time to write, and I just need to sit down and get it done. And if you have it kind of like a to-do list item with a scheduled time, that'll make it a lot easier to stay motivated. If you're like me, where even though you know better, you haven't been scheduling time specifically in your planner, it's really easy to think, oh yeah, that's going to be great. I'll have little pockets of time here and there, and I can just kind of jot things down. And then in the evening, I'll still have tons of energy. So when I get home from work, I'll just pop out the rest that I didn't get to during the day. It's really easy to think that will happen, but it's really hard to achieve it and actually make that happen. So even if your time changes, make sure you schedule in time every day. If you're someone who enjoys sitting down and really focusing, and you can focus and write for a full hour, go for it. Schedule a full hour. If you can only do 15 minutes, try to schedule in a couple chunks of 15 minutes so you know that you get up to your word count for that day. So however you want to schedule it is fine. Just make sure you actually schedule it and you have it in whatever kind of tool you use to schedule, whether it's Google Calendars, your planner, a sticky note on your forehead, whatever you use to actually schedule, make sure you write it down. Some people prefer writing in the morning. I was doing some research about authors who are very prolific and seeing what kind of habits they have, and that's actually a lot. We'll talk about that next week. But one trend I was noticing is a lot of authors seem to be morning people, or they at least carve out time in the mornings. Especially because if you're in a busy house or you have, a busy time, mornings can be a quiet, calm time, first thing in the morning where your mind is fresh and you don't have a lot of distractions. I have a very hard time waking up in the mornings, even in time for me to get to work. So oftentimes I will try to write in the evenings, but the difficulty with that sometimes is even if you're an evening person, you might be too tired from everything in the day to actually write. So not only is it important to schedule time every day to write, but try to schedule time where you know that you'll have a little bit less distraction or less people around, and you'll hopefully have a little bit more energy. What I have been doing for the most part is actually writing on my lunch break. So I'll go into my car, or I'll just try to, you know, have a quiet spot in this back office, which is hard to do because we're a small branch, so we're all kind of stuck in here together. So I'll usually go to my car and write on my lunch break, but I haven't been scheduling that, so it's not on the to-do list. So just try to figure out, you know, lunch break. Do you have some time where, you know, the kiddos head out to their activity, and when you drop them off, you can stay in your car and write, anything like that. And then the second thing, which I've also not been doing a good job of, is eliminating distractions. So, you know, some distractions are necessary. We're always distracted by things, a lot of things that do take up time because they need to, like our children, our spouses, our partners, our jobs, all of those things that are necessary distractions. But as much as possible, try to eliminate any distractions that you can. So for example, on a lot of phones, you can set a do not disturb setting, and you can also put specific contacts into a list where if those people try to contact you, the call or text message will go through. So if you want to be unavailable for an emergency, make sure you put your family members in there or something like that. But the nice thing is do not disturb will filter those calls and things, so you won't be getting notifications of your social media. You won't be getting, you know, random reminders that pop up. You won't be getting calls from people that you know wouldn't be calling you in an emergency. So that's something that I really need to do myself, because it's very easy to get distracted by your phone. So if your phone has less of a chance of pinging and distracting you, that's a great way to try to eliminate some distractions and filter those out. Turn off the television or the Netflix or the video games or the whatever. Some people can write with music, which is awesome. I can write with music only if there's no words involved. So I can't listen to normal music with lyrics. I'll listen to classical music, or the very famous YouTube video that a lot of people probably know about, lo-fi beats to study. What is it? Lo-fi beats to study and do homework to? Something like that. Some kind of calming music can work for some people. Other people need to have complete silence. So it's important that you experiment and see whether music is a distraction or not for you. TV will always be a distraction, even if you're used to having it run in the background. I find that no matter what style you have or what things you're used to, anything that has a lot of words associated with it is going to interrupt your brain and your writing, because you're trying to listen to those words while also creating your own. And the other thing is, when you schedule time to write, tell people that that's your time to write. Tell the people in your life, you know, if you're able to have a partner help out with the kiddos, or a family member, or even just let your kiddos know, you know, this is my 15 minutes to write. I really need you to not interrupt me unless, what did my mom always say to me? Unless you're bleeding or need to go to the hospital. So bleeding, throwing up, or have a fever, don't distract me for these 15 minutes. Once it's 2:45, feel free to bother me, but until then, this is my special writing time. That's hard to set boundaries sometimes, and of course all of these tips for staying motivated are kind of in a best case scenario, perfect world instance, but as much as you can try to set boundaries and help yourself out, it will help you. The next thing is creating a special writing zone. So speaking of perfect worlds, we would all love to have a beautiful office where we have a view of trees or the beach or the mountains, and it's completely silent and no one bothers us in it. It has the comfiest chair, but we're just so productive in our one writing office. Most of us don't have that, or even something remotely close to that. So what I mean by writing zone is you don't need to have a special perfect writing office. You don't even necessarily have to have a different room. You just need to have a couple things that trigger in your brain, that make your brain think, ah, yes, when I pick up this notebook, or when I listen to this music, this playlist, it's time to write. Because if you're able to have that kind of writing zone, your brain is going to have an easier time of getting into writing if you have that same routine over and over. So you know, when you put your keys in your car and you put your seatbelt on, your brain gets ready and activates into driving mode, right? You know, when you put your mask on and you get your grocery list, your brain goes into, okay, it's time to go shop for groceries, and you kind of go into autopilot. So whatever you can do, if it's a certain chair you want to sit in, a certain notebook you want to write in, even just a certain space in your house that you can sit in. Like, you know, when I sit at my dining room table, that's the time for writing. When I'm sitting on the couch, that's the time for TV. So make sure you're not writing on the couch, right? Make sure you always go to the dining room table. That'll just help your brain to focus and to get used to at this time and in this space is where I'm writing. And then the last one is trying out a tracker in word sprints. So if anyone would like to comment, I'd be interested to hear if anyone else has experience in using trackers and what kind of trackers you have used before, whether it's the ones on the NaNoWriMo website or any other ones. I have a very loud water bottle today too. It's a fun virtual program with a loud water bottle and a cracky mic. Okay, and if anyone is typing, I can go ahead and chat about what I have experienced, because I have experienced using trackers before in a variety of ways, both for writing and also just for everyday life. So I have tried everything from the simplest phone app to the most elaborate bullet journaling system. I have a thing about trying to, organize and stay organized and scheduling and trying out fun office supplies and trends. So I've tried them all. And I have to say, with tracking for National Novel Writing Month in specific, I find that the simpler is better for me. So it's really fun to look at bullet journal spreads online and to see all the beautiful things that people do. And I think for some people that's really inspiring and helps them to keep going and keep being motivated. And if that's you, that's awesome. For me, I was finding that I was spending so much time doing the bullet journal that I would never get to the writing because I'd spend hours getting my tracker ready and then filling in the books each day for my word count, and I would get distracted by my tracker. So whatever you use, and if you've experienced other ones, feel free to put them in the chat. It's important to try a variety of trackers to figure out which one would work for you. And the important thing to keep in mind is the way you use a tracker doesn't have to be the way anyone else does. So it's not a have to, it's a tool that can help you out. So the main thing to remember is this tracker actually helping me to stay motivated with my writing, or is it a distraction from my writing that I should eliminate? And in my instance, the bullet journal was actually a distraction from my writing, not a motivation to continue writing and seeing my progress. So I have switched now, and I just use the NaNoWriMo tracker. I can show you all those trackers just to remind you. And if you haven't gotten the introduction to the NaNoWriMo website or the Young Writers Program and you would like to have that, just make sure you go ahead and look at week 1 of our NaNoWriMo program and you'll be able to see all of those there. But let me just show you. So here's the Young Writers Program. And when you log in, again, if you haven't seen this before, maybe watch the first week of our program on YouTube or Facebook. It'll be in the same spot you are now, just week 1. Once you make an account, you can see here's the tracker for the Young Writers Program, so it'll begin to fill up, and you can change it to look different ways. You can see your daily word count goal. You can see the progress style, anything like that. So I just use this tracker. It looks a little bit different on the other one. So for all of us are 18. So on the normal NaNoWriMo website, it looks like this right here. So you see this bar that's small right now, this will fill up right here. And so on the Young Writers Program, remember there is a way that you can actually write on the site and it will automatically update your word count, or you can choose to update your word count if you're writing somewhere else. With the NaNoWriMo website, you have to update your word count manually on your own. So every time you update it, let's say I wrote another 1,667 words, it'll fill that bar up there. So all that to say, I figured out that the easiest way to keep is to use this update. So I'm not so distracted by all the pretty bullet journal spreads and things like that. If you have tried anything else, I would love to hear. I'm always interested in organization, especially for writing specifically, because keeping up your motivation is probably one of the hardest things with writing, especially with NaNoWriMo, where it's so much in 1 month. So those are the trackers, and we'll talk a little bit more about other tracker possibilities. That's just kind of my experience with them. The other one is word sprints, which we will actually do a word sprint together at the end, so we can do them together. So we will talk about that next, but let's go over to tracker possibilities since we've already started chatting about that, and we'll go back to that one. All right, so here's some examples. The one on the top right, that's the bullet journal I was talking about, and the one in the middle, that's the other one that I was talking about that I do actually use, which is just the tracker available on the website. But there are a ton of trackers. So if you just look up trackers in general, not even for NaNoWriMo specifically, you will have more than a gazillion examples for you forever. And I'm actually going to take my video off better. That's probably easier to see. And there's a lot of great resources for NaNoWriMo specifically. So if you want to Google NaNoWriMo trackers, you'll see, for example, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a really cool Excel spreadsheet template that someone's made, and you can actually download that into your own Excel and use that. So if you really like spreadsheets and it's satisfying for you to see that remaining daily average go down, you could try that out. There's another example with the left-hand one where it's also a spreadsheet. And there's tons of other options. So if you like those really big wall calendars and it's easiest for you to just write how much you've achieved in a day on a wall calendar, try that out. If you're amazingly artistic and love bullet journaling, go for it. There's so many different options. Highlighters and color coding can be fun for some people too. So that June one, it's a budget, but that's kind of an example. So let's say you want to just do a handwritten one with color coding, and you could use different color coding. So green means I exceeded the goal that I had today, and yellow means I didn't quite make it, and blue means I made it, something like that. Again, the most important thing, whether you're using a phone app or using Excel, is that this tracker is an option for you to keep your motivation up. So when you look at this tracker, it's a way for you to be like, oh, look how far I've come. Look how much work I've done. I can't give up now. I'm already so far, and I'm already doing so much great work. I want to keep going. And something else to mention about trackers is for writing in specific, there's kind of two different ways that you can track your writing with word counts. You could also, if you wanted to do NaNoWriMo completely differently and you wanted to just track how much time you spent writing, let's say you say, I don't care about 50,000, 30,000 words, I just want to write every day and get used to the habit of writing every day. That's another great goal. You could just set a timer every day, and each day that you write for at least 30 minutes, you give yourself a star or something like that. So that's a third way to do. You could either track how much time you write every day, and not worry about word count at all. But for NaNoWriMo, it's usually more of a focus on word count because of the initial goal of 50,000 words when it was first started. So there's kind of not really two schools of thought, just two ways of approaching the word count. The first is you can either do it where your word count increases every day. And so you say the first day you have 1,667 words, the next day you have 3,387 words, and you go up and up and up to 50,000 or whatever your goal is, if it's 30,000 or 25,000. The other option, and the one that I find more satisfying, is starting with that 50,000 or 30,000 that you've set, and each day as you track how much you've done, that number gets smaller and smaller. So now instead of 50,000, I know I have 48,200, now I have 45,321, and down and down and down. So it's just kind of up to you. Do you prefer seeing your word count go up and up and up, or do you prefer seeing this big word count that you're slowly chipping away at as it goes down, down, down? So those are kind of two options for trackers and how to do that. What you're tracking, either words or time, how you want to track that, and then what kind of tracker you want to use. Any questions? I just realized I haven't stopped for questions yet, and we're already 25 minutes in. Any questions about the staying motivated suggestions or trackers? Let me go back to staying motivated so you can see all of those. or any experiences with trackers that were either really great or really terrible or really funny. All right, I'm not seeing any comments yet, but again, as usual, feel free to pop them in anytime you think about, oh, I do remember that time I tried some crazy sticky note tracker. Anytime something pops up in your brain or anytime you want to share, feel free to share. I do think it's great to have this kind of interactive environment because it's fun to kind of chat about each other's experiences. So I want to be sure that I'm not just talking about my own experiences, my own ideas, because I am not a writing expert. I do have an English degree, but I'm not a writing expert. Allison Gervais will be, she didn't even call herself an expert, but she will be the one that has even greater experience. So I want to be sure that we're all learning from each other's experiences and chatting about it. So please feel free to do that at any time. But if there's no questions or stories, tracker stories, we can chat a bit about word count, which we were just talking about with trackers. So I talked about this quite a lot in week 1, but I just wanted to come back to it for a bit because I think that week 2 is a great time to reevaluate your word count. Now, of course, you can change your word count at any time. You can change it on the Young Writers Program website or the NaNoWriMo website, but it's really important that even though you can change it at any time, you actually take a couple minutes to seriously think about your word count. And I find that week 2 and week 3 are the times that it's most important for me to think about my word count and how it's going for me. Because otherwise, if I go any later than that, it's kind of too late to change it without me personally feeling like, oh, I could have done it, but it was like a little bit too much of a stretch. So this is a great time where you still have tons of time to change your word count and change your thinking on it without kind of sacrificing the timing of it. So remember, it's up to you, traditional NaNoWriMo. If you want to be traditional like me, you can do 50,000 words. And I will be honest, I am kind of reconsidering that for this project just because I've been struggling. So remember, depending on what kind of schedule you have, if you've tried to schedule writing every day and it's just really not feasible, or it's really not feasible to not have a lot of distractions while you're writing, that's okay. Change your word count. Make sure that you're using NaNoWriMo, just like the trackers, you're using NaNoWriMo as a tool to help your writing. It's not supposed to be a hindrance to your experience as a writer and to your writing journey. So if you need to change word count because of the way your schedule is or the way your experience has been so far, now is a great time to do it. The other thing to keep in mind is what genre you're writing for. So I'm writing a collection of short stories, and while I do want to have a lot of short stories to draw from for a collection, I'm not sure if 50,000 is the right amount. It might be too much. So I need to seriously think about what genre I'm writing for, along with how it's been going so far to reevaluate it. So make sure you all take some time this week too to reevaluate and see whether you want to keep the current goal you have. Maybe you want to bump it up to 50,000. Maybe you need to take it down. Whatever it is, just make sure now is a great time to do that. So that's the other thing that's really important. And let me take a look at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. All right, I want to chat a little bit about the Kids to Go because the next thing is the word sprint. And once I explain the word sprint and we talk about it a bit, I actually want to do one with you all and have some reflection time on that. So let's talk about the Kids to Go first. So this is what they look like. I talked about them in week 1, but if you have not stopped by to get one, we still have 9 left. So they are going kind of quickly, so make sure you come by and grab one. So these are only at the Barkman branch, so if you want to come grab one, you can either give us a call at 719-562-5680 and request a NaNoWriMo writing kit, or you can just stop on by and come and pick one up as well. And they're a drawstring backpack that you get to keep. And I'll show you a bit of what's inside. We have some great NaNoWriMo pens. Ooh, can you see that? It says NaNoWriMo 2020 if you can. They're actually pencils. I said they were pens. It also has this little notebook, And this is something I was talking about in the previous one that I wanted to mention again. These are awesome for keeping up motivation because I like to pop these into my bag on the go and just write wherever I am. So if that doesn't work out for you, that's okay, but I find that these are really fun tools to keep your motivation going so that you can write wherever you are and you don't have to wait and go to your other notebook that you keep at home or get to your laptop. You can just write and work on your word count wherever you are and just pop it into your nice little backpack with the Kids to Go. There's also writing prompts here. And therefore, there's writing prompts for adults, children, and teens. So this kit is not specifically for a certain age. Anyone can participate in NaNoWriMo. You do the Young Writers program if you're under 18, and the normal one if you're over 18. So if you're not super interested, but you have a kiddo or you know a teen who would also like one, please tell them it's not just not just for a certain age. Anyone can do it. Any writer, any experience. You don't have to be a published writer or anything like that. Anyone can pick up one of those kits to go. So don't forget about those. They also have a lot of other fun things in them. Another thing to keep up motivation, it has some cocoa or cider and a nice tumbler in it. So you can use that also for caffeine because, if we're honest, caffeine is one of the greatest weapons of a writer to keep up their motivation. So that's the kits to go. So don't forget about those. Those will be available through the end of November or until supplies last. So we have 9 of those left. So it might be better to hop on it sooner as opposed to later, just in case they run out. Any questions about the kits to go? All right. Are you all ready to talk about word sprints? If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes. I'm really excited for this portion because I think that word sprints, besides caffeine, are one of the most helpful things to use during NaNoWriMo and also just as a writer in general. It's a really, really fantastic tool. I wish I had learned about it sooner. I actually didn't learn about them until I participated in NaNoWriMo, and so it's a really awesome tool. So let's talk a little bit about what it is. So word sprints are where you take a really small chunk of time and you use that time to only focus on your writing. So we talked a bit about how you schedule your writing time in the way you can around your schedule, but word sprints are going to be even smaller than that. So think 1 to 5 minutes, like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes maximum, usually like a very small chunk of time. Depending on how much time we have today, we may go up to 10 minutes, but we might just try a 5-minute one. And so the reason you want word sprints to be such a short amount of time is because you want that time to be laser focused on your writing. So you schedule your writing time 45 minutes every day, and of course you want to be focused on that, but word sprints are a laser focused period of time where all you do is write. You do not stop your pen, you do not stop typing, all you do is write. And so you keep the timer going, and as long as that timer is going, your hand is moving, your hand is typing, you're talking and doing the voice recognition, whatever it is. And word sprints are really wonderful because of a couple reasons. First of all, if you're like me or many other people, you are the world's best editor as you're writing. So you'll start writing and you think, that sounds dumb. No, I don't want to put that there. I don't even know that this will like really happen in the book. It was an idea I had, so maybe I shouldn't include it. And you may have had the experience that I've had many times where you start writing, then you read the sentence that you just wrote, and you delete the whole sentence, then you write the sentence a different way, and then you delete the whole sentence, and you just go back and forth, writing and editing, deleting, deleting. And before you know it, you've been writing for 15 minutes and you only have 150 words because you deleted more than half of the words that you had initially written down. So word sprints are a really fantastic way to break out of the self-editing cycle, is what I call it. When you do word sprints, you cannot allow your brain to edit anything you're writing because it's important to just keep writing no matter what you're writing. I have done word sprints where I literally just put, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I have to keep writing right now because the timer's still going, but I don't even know what to write. That's completely fine. Misspellings, not knowing characters' names, writing entire scenes that won't work out in the final edit of your book, that is all fine. The main point of word sprints is to just keep going, because when you allow your brain to just keep writing and writing without having that self-editing cycle, you'll be surprised by what can come out of it. Characters can really surprise you by their decisions. You can have really insightful moments, and you'll write things down that when you're not editing, you may look back later with a fresh pair of eyes and realize that it is what you wanted, or it was a very poetic way of explaining that. So word sprints are awesome because they're a great way to fit in writing into a very short period of time if you're like me and are very busy. And it's a great way to stop your brain from editing you and just letting you actually focus on writing. And once you try word sprints, I think you'll find there's a very big difference between writing and editing simultaneously, like our brains like to do, and actually just purely writing. And word sprints are just pure writing without any judgment, any thought, anything like that. Just getting words onto a page. That's all it's about. It's not about even rereading those words or changing misspelled words. So I find word sprints to be a really great way to fit writing in, but also a really great way to kind of reframe the way that we look at our writing and we look at our writing process. And I hope that once you experience some of them, you'll find a new freedom in doing them and a new freedom in having the chance to actually just write and not have to constantly judge and self-evaluate your writing as you go along. You can do word sprints and then you can just leave it. And when NaNoWriMo is over, you will have plenty of time to go back and edit and change and fix spelling. But NaNoWriMo is not about editing something to get it ready for publication. It's about just writing to write. So that is why I really, really love word sprints. I want to make sure that I didn't have anything else specifically about that. Yes, the other thing I really like is word sprints can feel more approachable if you're having a hard time staying motivated. So it's one of the greatest tools that I think for staying motivated. So if you're having a hard time staying motivated and you think, I know I have that half-hour lunch break to write, but I am just exhausted and I'm honestly kind of tired of writing. Think of it instead as, I'm going to do 2 one-minute word sprints and just see what happens. And that can be a lot more of an approachable way to look at it. So that is word sprints. And as you can tell, I'm a big fan. So any questions about word sprints, or anyone done word sprints before? Anyone hate word sprints? Could have a little discussion, debate between someone who loves them and someone who hates them. I would love to hear the other side of people who have tried word sprints and found that they don't actually work for them. All right. Nothing yet. If you think of something or you want to debate it, I would actually be really interested to hear someone who doesn't like word sprints, because I'd be interested to hear the downsides of it in your perspective. So if you want to share your experiences with word sprints or any questions, pop them into the chat at any time. But we will go ahead and go on. So I said we would do a word sprint once I chatted about word sprints, and that is exactly what we are going to do. So I think, let's see, it's 2:40 now. I think let's start with a 5-minute word sprint, because that will give us some time to chat about it afterwards and talk a little bit about a reflection of it. And then it will also give me time to show you one other thing that I almost forgot about, which is badges. I'm going to put that on my notes before I forget. And badges are another great way to stay motivated as well. So I want to show you those. So we are going to do a 5-minute word sprint all together. So this is an interactive assignment. You won't be able to just sit here for 5 minutes in silence. I mean, I guess you could, because I can't tell if you are or not. But I prefer if you joined me. So grab whatever writing tool you have. Open up your Word document. pull out a piece of paper, whatever you want, and I'll give us all a couple minutes to get started. Ah, interesting. Okay, Regina Renee says she hates word sprints. I did find someone who dislikes them. Would you feel comfortable sharing any reasons why? And it looks like Regina Renee said they also just ended one at the virtual write-in for NaNoWriMo. The only time word sprints have worked for me is with a prompt, such as have your character do something shocking. Okay, so maybe do you feel like word sprints are like a little bit too unstructured? Or you just don't get anything helpful out of them when you've finished? And you've brought up a great point, Regina, and they've brought up a great point. Maybe we should do a prompt for this word sprint, especially if it's your first time trying it. Let us see. I can find one. I was looking at the prompts in the Kits to Go, but a lot of those are prompts specifically for works that you haven't started yet, and so it may be difficult to kind of fit that into a work that you're already working on. Let's see. Let's do. Okay, I feel the point of word sprints is to get flowing, and all I feel is pressure with very little benefit. I need sprints with a purpose. Okay, that's a great point. Let me see if I can find one. I want to find one that's general enough that it works for everyone, no matter what they're writing. Timed exercises to shake up your creativity. Let's see if this works. I can understand how that would feel like a lot of pressure on someone. It's kind of like some people might feel pressure and it wouldn't help them very much because they would just have like words that wouldn't help them in their long term. Or some people would have it where they appreciate it because it feels like, for me, it feels like less pressure because all of a sudden I don't have to kind of judge what I'm doing the entire time. Let's see. I'm trying to find a good word sprint prompt. I'm having a hard time, actually. Okay. Let's see. Let's try doing... One still doesn't work so well. Sorry, I'm still trying to find one. I need a prompt, not just word sprints in general. Do you want to do the word sprint one that... Okay, there we go. I was going to ask Regina Renee actually if you wanted to do the one you mentioned. So Regina Renee says, write 5 minutes that reveals something about your character. I just need more structure personally. Do you want to try that prompt? Let's do write for 5 minutes and write specifically a scene that reveals something about your character. I can understand wanting more structure too. I was hoping using Google would just give me prompts, but a lot of them are just talking about word sprints in general. Another one is that I saw is give a minor character a dramatic monologue. Could be an option as well. Let's go ahead and let's do Regina Renee's idea since they were nice enough to put it in the chat. Let's do for the word sprint, specifically the prompt so we could have some more structure. Specifically for the prompt that Regina Renee mentioned. And they also said, they're most helpful when I don't feel like writing. Yay, I wrote for 5 minutes. And yeah, that's what I like the most about it is when I'm feeling completely unmotivated, word sprints are one of the only things that will actually bring me out of that not being motivated and just feeling like, okay, it might not be great, but I wrote today and I got my word count up, and that's what's important. So let's do Gina Renee's idea if they're okay with that. And let's write for 5 minutes with this word sprint. And oh, you like the monologue one too. Let's do the monologue one since that might be one that we haven't done yet together. So let's write for 5 minutes for this, and I will set this timer. And the prompt for this, so we can have more structure for those of us who hate word sprints, is give a minor character a dramatic monologue. And if you're writing a nonfiction, you may want to think about it instead of a character. Maybe dive into a minor character in your nonfiction and dive more into their story or a scene featuring only them. All right, dramatic monologue for a character or a person if it's a nonfiction. And don't stop writing, all right? See you in 5 minutes. I'm writing as well. And just to prove to you, I really am right. So I'm doing it along with you. All right, how are y'all doing? We got about 2.5 minutes left. Don't stop writing. All right, go ahead and stop writing. Give you all a couple seconds to stop your sentences. Let me take a look at something quickly while you all are doing that. If you have stopped, go ahead and put into the chat if you'd like, how did that 5-minute word sprint go for you? How was your dramatic monologue for your character or person? I'll start. This is how much I wrote, which I'm actually really excited by. I do have gigantic handwriting, so when I write on paper, I get excited, and then I realize it's not actually that many words because my handwriting takes up a lot of room. But I was having a pretty good time in the beginning, starting out, and then I kind of set the scene a bit before the dramatic monologue. And when I started the dramatic monologue, I got kind of stuck, but I knew I couldn't stop writing, so I literally wrote, he didn't know from here. I didn't know what to write or whether any of this would work. So I just made the wizard jump into a dramatic monologue out of nowhere. And his dramatic monologue starts by, "This is a dramatic monologue for a word sprint." And then he continues going, "Willow, you have to believe that we all have your best interests at heart, blah, 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 blah." And then it actually started the monologue that went around along with my plot and character. But I literally started his dramatic monologue by saying, "This is dramatic monologue for a word sprint." And this was actually really interesting for me because I have never tried a word sprint that had a prompt associated with it. So thank you very much to Regina and Renee for sharing their perspective with us and talking a bit about the downsides to word sprints and how you can make them maybe more specific. And again, just like everything else, NaNoWriMo needs to work for you and your genre and your style of writing. And if you find, like Regina or Renee, that you hate word sprints, please don't do word sprints just because you feel like you have to. If you hate them, don't do them. If you have a much better way of writing, please do that. But I find that word sprints are helpful for me, and I thought it's a great way that we could write together because we can't write all together in a physical program. So, and if this was your first ever word sprint, I would love to hear what you all thought of that as well, and whether you're enjoying it or whether you agree with Regina Renee and it's a bit too it's too much pressure for something that might not be productive. Regina Renee says, "I had a sibling argument to write, so the dramatic monologue was helpful." Yay! I'm glad this one was helpful for you. They had also mentioned earlier, I know you said you had just finished doing a word sprint at the virtual write-in for NaNoWriMo. So I'm so sorry to make you do more than one word sprint one day when you dislike that. But thank you so much. I'm glad that the dramatic monologue part was helpful. If any of you find any prompts that are specifically for word sprints, please share them in the comments because I was having a hard time finding some. So that might be a helpful resource for people where it's a more prompt-specific way of guiding a word sprint. We only have a little bit of time left. I wanted to mention I was going to talk about badges today, but I checked over my notes and I actually was going to talk about them next week. So I don't want to give that away. But I do want to talk a bit about what Regina and Renee mentioned in their comment about doing one with virtual write-ins. And it looks like the next word sprint at the virtual write-in is "Shake it off. Your character must move on or recover from something." This is interesting. I'm interested with the prompts maybe being more specific and helpful for word sprints, but also I'm wondering how much it's affecting someone's plot. Like if you've plotted out what's going to happen, whether people are whether their plot is changing a lot because their character has to move on from something. So maybe they're switching things up of how it was going to happen in their book from the word sprint. So that's another interesting way to think about either a positive or negative of word sprints, is it could affect your overall plot and how your book actually, how your characters go through things and how your book actually ends up happening. That's interesting. So mentioning the virtual write-in, I wanted to show you all that as well. If you are part of the NaNoWriMo team, you can do write-ins at any time. So we'll be doing ours, remember, on the 23rd instead of the 31st. 31st we'll have Allison Gervais. But you can always do those as well. You can see here on the homepage of NaNoWriMo, if you scroll down this NaNoWriMo HQ, here is those virtual write-ins. There's also Instagram Lives, which I've never been a part of, but I have done those virtual write-ins. So that's what Regina and Renee is referencing when they mentioned doing virtual write-ins. You can see here's the times, and you can click on it to get more information as well, including the URL to go join. So if you ended up loving word sprints or you want to do some virtual write-ins, you could do that as well. And Regina Renee mentions the prompts are specifically for people like me. Well, that's great. I'm glad that they have something specifically for you, so it feels better. And that's really helpful to have a resource like that if you want to use it, because if you don't want to use it, you of course don't have to as well, but it's helpful to have that if someone needs it. Okay, and in the virtual write-ins for NaNoWriMo, Regina Renee is saying, many don't use the prompts at all. There are 287 people here, and I'd say most are just writing. So that's really good to know. If you do those virtual write-ins, they will have prompts, but you don't have to use them. And that is actually a great note that I'm going to write down, Regina Renee. I want to make sure to have that option for our virtual write-in on the 23rd as well. So let me write that down. Find word sprint. Okay. And that's another great thing that Regina and Renee also mentioned. These virtual write-ins with NaNoWriMo have a ton of people, 287 people all together doing a virtual write-in. So if you're missing that community that comes normally with NaNoWriMo and getting to do physical library events and also just physical events in general for NaNoWriMo, that is also a great option, is that the NaNoWriMo one will have a lot of people. So if you prefer a more intimate setting like this, the virtual writing on the 23rd, I'm really looking forward to it. But if you want more or you want a huge old crowd, you could do it with NaNoWriMo as well. And again, the way you get to that is you just start out at the homepage and you can just scroll down and you can see all of these from NaNoWriMo headquarters. All right. So,